Yo, Moose. Stop the car right here. There they go. All right, give it here. Oh, man, you need to do it. Cool. I want to do it. Stay in the car, man. Stay in the car. Good. Hi, officers. We had a flat tire back there. Do you think you guys could help us out? Nah, that's not my job. My job's not to help your fucking ass out. I mean, I don't have any other way to get home. That's not my job, asshole. Well, could you tell me what your job is? Right now, my job is eating these donuts. Or maybe, hey, wait a minute, aren't you? Yeah. Body count. Yeah, motherfucker! Body count, nigga! Right about now in the motherfucking place to be. On the bass, I got my main motherfucker called Moose Man. Main the rhythm tracks, I got the one and only infamous D-Rock in the half. On the drums, I got the one and only Beatmaster V, motherfucker. On lead guitars, I got my nigga Ernie C. And I'm Ice motherfucking T, bitch. Come on, make some noise.
Come on, make some noise, yeah. Metal Hammer of Doom, motherfucker, yeah. I am excited tonight. We are going in the Wayback Machine. We are checking out the very first Body Count album by OG Mr. Ice motherfucking T, baby. And I am, of course, your host for the evening, Mr. Mark Radulich, and frankly, I'm not even mortified tonight. I'm ready to get down. Yeah, Body Count, motherfucker. This is the most excited I've been for a podcast. I don't know how long. This right here, this is what's got me all excited. And I know some people, you're a little too much, Radulich, a little over the top. I don't care. I love it. Ugh, can't wait. Now, here's a man who's going to keep things under control for tonight. Here's a guy who's not going to let me get too out of hand. Mr. Robert Cooper, how do you do, sir?
I almost considered totally dropping gangster rap right here from the top of my head, and then I realized two things. One, I'm white, and two, I'm not Jeremy Lambert, so I can't do it.
No, neither one of us should attempt to rap tonight at all, ever. Never under any circumstances.
No, actually, I could do it. I'm a good wordsmith, but yeah, I'm psyched for this album too, because as we talked during the pre-show, there's a lot of things we can actually talk about. This isn't just old man Radulich's vanity album that he wanted to talk about because he loves this album. Oh no, we're gonna get into some musical themes and lyrical themes and a lot of interesting discussion. Hi, Jesse.
Yes, so I'm sure we'll be playing the home game tonight as he Facebook bombs me. We love you, Jesse. We do. That's truth right there, motherfucker. All right. A couple of things right off the bat. I generally don't curse a tremendous amount on these podcasts. I will curse when the muse hits me, but if that's not your thing, this may not be your podcast, because I'm probably going to do that a lot tonight. The other thing is we are going to talk about Cop Killer. We are going to talk about Cop Killer fairly extensively. Let me state right off the bat, the Radulich and Broadcasting Network does not condone the actual killing of police. Okay? People might be listening to this going, oh, why would you play that song? It's so horrible. There's a whole discussion to be had about it, and we will have it. But I don't want people going into this thinking the Radulich and Broadcasting Network hates the cops. Ice-T doesn't hate the cops, and we're going to talk about that when we get to that.
He plays a cop. How ironic.
Exactly. Oh, he plays one, at least on TV. All right, so let's get into this. First of all, how many metal albums are out there where they actually introduce the band in the middle of the song? You know what I mean? Like, you don't have, like, Dave Mustaine, singing... He's just, I'm Dave Mustaine, and on the bass guitar, like, maybe you get that a little bit like in some country songs, but for the most part, people aren't out there introducing their fucking band in the middle of the song. You know what I mean? So right off the bat, they do the skit with the fantasy skit. I'm going to talk about that in just a second, but right off the bat, you get this fantasy of Ice-T shooting a jerk cop. And they go right into Body Counts in the House, which I've been playing a lot of because I love it. And I'll talk about why in just a second. But, it's just repetition, and then, boom, they introduce the band. And Robert and I were actually talking before the show. Body Count is truly one of the most unique bands in the history of music. It's hard to categorize, oddly enough, because it draws so heavily, obviously, from rap music, traditional gangster rap music, as it's called, but also from thrash metal. Yet it's very hard to sort of pin it down and say, well, what is it really? Because of the way that it was handled. But the other thing about it is, if you listen to rap music pre the Chronic. So if you listen to 80s, like mid to late 80s, quote unquote gangster rap, NWA, Ice-T's original rap albums, East Coast, you got Public Enemy. There's a lot of that going on in this album. There definitely drew from those elements. But if you look at the history of Body Count, these guys were all actual rock musicians that put this band together. So it's a funny thing. The other thing that we're going to be talking about tonight is, again, the elements of fantasy in this album. This is very much revenge-oriented. And to truly understand it, you have to think about the African-American perspective. People who, right or wrong, and I'm not necessarily defending in any way, shape, or form. I'm throwing elements out there so people kind of can follow the discussion. But if you think about elements that tend to follow in certain genres that are populated by African Americans, there's distrust of the police, right? This album deals with voodoo, which is, if you ever talk to anyone from the islands, that's a big part of the culture, either stated or participated in. You've got the fantasy, the sort of the treasuring of white women, that sort of thing. There's so much of that going on. So, so much like hatred towards the traditionally white male power structure. All of that's in there, and you don't really find that in thrash metal. Why? Because thrash metal is mostly populated by white people who are not going to be singing about, damn, I wish I had a white woman, and goddamn the voodoo, and let's kill cops. I mean, it's just not there. So, I'm going to throw it to you, Robert. You just started listening to this. I mean, I listened to it back in 1992 when it came out, and I'll talk about that once I hear from you about my first experience with this. But take it easy there, Wheezy. You all right?
Yeah, I had some shit in my chest and my throat this week. It's great, but it's spring break, so at least I don't have to go to school with it.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is your first sort of experience with Body Count. So just kind of give me you've heard the album, give me your overall impressions and, react to if you want to anything I've brought up so far.
Oh, well, this is going to comment on the whole metal, thrash metal. Metal in general was a very white-dominated genre, which is very funny because the college I go to is an HBCU, and I have a social justice class, which is taught by an amazing woman, Ms. Oates, and I actually blew her away when I sent her some African-American centered metal articles from my research, during the week when I'm doing stuff for my column. And I was like, yeah, I love metal, but it really is just a bunch of angry white boys just yelling about things they hate. At the core, that's what it is, especially when you get to, like, the Norwegian shit, because everybody's white there. But, sorry.
Damn it, translucent.
Pretty much. But my experience with body count, the reason I knew they existed was when I first started getting into metal. I started looking into, your bigger bands, like your Metallicas, and I eventually got into Megadeth, but I was looking into Black Sabbath. And their last album, Forbidden, actually has a song, I think that features body count, or is like a collaboration with them, if I'm not mistaken. So, I knew they were around, like, really early on in my metal listening career, quote-unquote. But I never listened to them because as soon as I looked at what they were, I'm like, oh, this is going to be like Limp Bizkit. So I never gave them a listen. I actually didn't give them a listen at all, like, in full until today when I was like, oh, yeah, me and Old Man Radulich have to do an album. But what really got me excited for this is I was listening to the Ground and Pound show from the week before last, where you're like, we're playing Body Count, motherfuckers, and you played the song as the outro, and I'm like, dude, this is actually pretty fucking heavy. So that got me really stoked. And as for, like, I guess my listening experience, I kind of knew what I was getting into just because who was involved. Like, I'm not a big rap guy, probably not a surprise, but I kind of knew, like, Ice-T's reputation, and I knew the infamy of Cop Killer and stuff like that. So, I kind of know, okay, I don't know these social situations at the time, but I have an idea of the social situations at the time. So I kind of knew what I was getting into, and after listening to this album, it did reaffirm a lot of it. But at the same time, as we discussed in pre-show, like these themes, there's a lot of themes here that you're not going to get in metal. Like, not even, like, gang shit or cop shit. There's stuff talking about, I watch my, I wish there was a time when all my friends get to live to be old, and the cops come and get the cats from the tree and stuff. I'm like, you don't get that in metal very often because that's just not really the socioeconomic standing for a lot of the metal musicians. Sure, a lot of them lived in poverty, but I don't think they quite lived where, where guys like Ice-T were from, like, was he from Compton? I don't know where he was from. Trying to remember.
He grew up in Crenshaw, which is, like, part of South Central Los Angeles. If you think about bands like Poison, right, there were a couple of guys in Poison who I think grew up poor. A couple of guys in Guns N' Roses who I think grew up poor as well. And certainly before the bands made it big, Poison, they were living like bums. I know the guys in Guns N' Roses were practically homeless.
The guys in the Rat were pretty much eating crackers and ketchup.
But you don't hear that in the music. What you get in, like, early Motley Crue, early Poison, early Guns N' Roses, there's a lot of stuff about drugs and drinking, but you don't necessarily get, like, we had to turn on the oven for warmth, and the house smelled like, like rat piss. You don't get that sort of thing. You don't get the, I wish, you sometimes get a little angst with the cops, but nothing like you hear on this album. I'll tell you, this album is a huge mix for me. It's very kitschy. As I said to Robert, I said, this almost sounds like what would happen if, an autistic kid tried to produce a thrash metal album who's also a rapper. Like an autistic rapper trying to put what he thinks a metal album should sound like. That's how Body Count comes across to me. It's like Ice-T tried really hard, and he definitely put his stink on it, but I think he was trying to create a product that was going to be universal, that would be accepted by both black and white people, and it comes across as extraordinarily unique, but also kitschy, and in a lot of ways terrible. So we're going to explore all of that.
Sorta. It's a really weird mesh between two genres of music that hadn't really had much time to develop as a whole. Like, metal.
Well, let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there. The progression goes like this. You had, obviously, rock music steals from the blues, right? So, thank your local black person, kids, because without them we have no rock and roll. Black people pretty much gave us modern music. So we pretty much stole that.
When school starts on Monday, I'll just walk up and be like, "Thank you for heavy metal, ma'am." And she'll be like, "What?"
Yeah, exactly. Just walk around your campus thanking random black people for metal. Make sure your faces make sure you have corpse paint on when you do it, and you give them the horns. Excuse everybody.
Thank you for metal.
So white people totally stole the blues from black people, and and eventually created rock and roll out of it. And skipping ahead, you had elements of, you sort of had demarcations of what was white music and what was black music, and then you had instances where white music incorporated black music into what they were doing, and and those were usually of high praise. Where you have rock and rap coming together, I think one of the first, and certainly one of the most famous ones, was Run DMC and Aerosmith. Walk This Way. Right? Walk This Way is an Aerosmith song, and then you have, and then they redid it again with Run DMC at the behest of their producer. And there's even like a video where there's Aerosmith is playing on one side of the wall, and Run DMC is playing on the other side of the wall, and Run DMC knocks the wall down, and they play together, and it's musical harmony. A couple years later, you have, I believe, on the album Fear of a Black Planet. It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back by Public Enemy. One of my favorites, by the way, is in elementary school. There was a song called Bring the Noise, which they redid with Anthrax years later, and that was a huge, sort of step forward in the mixing of rock and metal. So those are your building blocks right there. You had other instances. Like I think Public Enemy toured with U2 at one point, and I think the Sisters of Mercy, which is one of the oddest tours I've ever heard of. But there was a lot of in the 80s and there was a lot of trying to bring up rap music into the world of rock, and then you have this thing, which then gives us later on your whole rapcore, rap metal scene, which for better or for worse, and that's a whole other discussion. But it does take the world of music in a completely new direction, and a lot of that rests on the shoulders of Body Count, though they don't necessarily get a lot of credit for that. Last thing before we go ahead and play the next track, what you're going to hear, like I said, over and over again, is a lot of traditional African-American tropes, especially like the next skit that leads into the next song. But as you listen to it, like I said, just keep thinking to yourself, at least in my opinion, this is a rap album. This is a early 90s gangster rap album set to metal tones. So here we go with a skit, and then the next song, which is Now Sports, and then Body Count.
This weekend, 17 youth killed in gang homicides. Now Sports.
Sometimes I sit at home, and I watch TV, and I wonder what it would be like to live someplace like, the Cosby Show, Ozzie and Harriet. Where cops come and got your cat out of the tree, all your friends died of old age. But you see, I live in South Central Los Angeles, and unfortunately, shit ain't like that!
Head of him stashed with a case of hand grenades. Tell us what to do. Fuck you. See, Body Count did it before Rage Against the Machine. I just want to go on record as saying that. Love this album. So, like I said, the first time I heard Body Count, I think I told the story before. My cousin took me to a quote-unquote industrial music club, and they were not just playing industrial music, as I would come to find out. But I didn't know what the hell industrial was, so I thought it was all industrial. But just to kind of give you an idea, they played, that was the first time I'd ever heard Pan. This is the Hotel Leningrad, for those of you playing the home game on Long Island. So this is 92-ish, 92, 93, somewhere in there. This is in Mineola, Long Island, and the club is the Hotel Leningrad, and they're playing this, they're playing Pantera, they're playing Sepultura, they were playing, they actually played the Shamrocks and Shenanigans Butch Vig mix, which if you've ever heard it, that's like the metal version of that song. Boom, shalock, lock, boom, all right now, and people punch each other in the face. And they would mix it up with Ministry and KMFDM, Skinny Puppy, My Life with a Thrill Kill Cult, all that stuff. And I remember being one of the few people in the club who, the very first time they played Body Counts in the house, I was the only one who knew who it was. Like, I didn't know what was Body Count, but I knew I had been listening to Ice-T since I was in elementary school. Yeah, funny thing about me, I have been listening to, like, really brutal gangster rap, I guess you could call it, since my earliest days of elementary school, because I grew up in an all-black town. So, I mean, I listened to Run DMC, LL Cool J, and then as rap got more aggressive and raunchier, so did my taste in rap. So now we're talking 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, just to kind of give you a timeline. And a father who basically said, as long as I don't have to hear it, I don't give a crap what you listen to, which I started listening to then Too Short, Ice-T, NWA. I had already been listening to Public Enemy, 2 Live Crew, all of that. So I was very familiar with a lot of rap music by the time I got to high school, before it was ever popular. As I used to say, I was always ahead of the curve. Before white people decided, before white people bought the Chronic and decided that rap music was a good thing, I was already there and had given up on it. So that's a whole other story. So I was very familiar with Ice-T, and I was just absolutely floored when I heard this, that, Ice-T was sort of stepping out of his comfort zone in rap music and producing a metal album. And I think one of the first things that really attracted me to it, besides the familiarity and the fact that, like, of all the people in this club, I knew who it was, I felt special at the time, was how aggressive it was. Before you get Rage Against the Machine and Limp Bizkit and all this, as we like to call it, the bro metal, there was this. Because if you think about a lot of the heavy metal that we've talked about, especially of the time period, your Ozzy Osbourne, your Megadeth, your Metallica, was it heavy? Obviously. Was it angry? Sure. Was it this kind of directly aggressive? I don't know about that. I don't know if you can necessarily say that the heavy metal of the time, though it was just starting to go that way, was so plainly and directly in your face. And this was. What do you think about that, Robert?
Early thrash was like, Kill You Is My Business and Business Is Good, Kill 'Em All. Some of Fistful of Metal, well, of course Slayer, but Slayer was just more, not quite like aggressive in terms of like.
There was almost a subtlety to it, though. Some of the stuff that you're naming, there was a subtlety to it. There was a subtlety to it, oddly enough. Maybe the song titles were very aggressive and obvious, but, I mean, the actual music itself, sometimes you couldn't even make out the lyrics. You can distinctly hear what he's saying.
Yeah, well, I think it's just a different medium. But I'd say some of them, like, as a whole, like, when you compare it to a lot of the metal we have now, that is kind of sort of tailored to be that way, like Toxic Holocaust. Some of the bands that are more crossover that move the punk genre into it. Yeah, those are a lot. Those are definitely as aggressive. Those like the older rap stuff. But where was I going? I had something good. You went on a really good diatribe, and I kind of wandered. I heard everything you said, but I forgot what I was going to say. But yeah, actually, you know how you feel about being the only person knowing what's going on with the music. It's such a good feeling, isn't it?
Well, you had talked about, your social justice class and the college that you go to, and you hear him say in the song, we talked about it before we even played the song, the idea of he's just, the first part of that song where he's just describing, how would you feel if a cop shot your kid on the way to school? And there's what you get a lot of in this album is like as I talked about at the top of the show, this feeling of disgust with the social inequities of society. And again, this is the early 90s we're talking about. So if some of this stuff maybe doesn't apply today, you have to kind of think about what it was 20-some-odd years ago. I can't believe it's that long. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, I'm 22.
It's 22. What year were you born?
91.
You were born 1 year before this fucking album even comes out. Oh,
damn.
Jesus Christ. I am almost 40. Talking about Bandy AK. I got 10 of them stashed with a case of hand grenades, but I better keep it down because my kid's sleeping in the next room. Tell us what to do. Shut up. Tell us what to do. Keep it down.
Get off
Tell
my
us
lawn.
what to do. Get off my lawn. On with the body count.
I mean,
all right.
like the themes, I feel like themes like that really are what set this album apart. Because that even now, like, you do have artists that delve into more deep topics in metal. Like, the band I've been obsessed with, Woods of Ypres, they talk a lot about losing people and, depression, but it's not as, I guess, brutal and true to life as something like this is, which is why I really don't see it as a rap album on top of metal, because when I think of that, I think Limp Bizkit, where they're using the metal instruments to make rap beats. Like, this feels like they took, like, hell, that last song, I was like, hey, I hear a little Iron Maiden in that. Again, this is them taking, like, what they would have used, like, the lyrics and themes they would have used for the rap album and just making rock. That's how I kind of see it. I see it as a rock album with, I guess, what you would call with rap elements in terms of, style and substance, really. But it does make it really unique, and especially when you compare it to some of their compatriots in rap metal, something's a fucking masterpiece. So I still don't know if it's as good as I'm the Man from Anthrax. I'm so bad I should be detention. I'm the Man.
So the skits on this album, and there are lots of them, set up the next song. So, like, the first skit set up body counts in the house, kind of setting the tone for what this album was going to be. The second one set up the next song. And the third one specifically speaks to the idea of another trope in African-American society, and that is
where the white women
correctional facilities. We're going to get there. We're not there yet. The white women be next. This one deals with a more serious subject, but one that is close to my professional heart, and that is incarceration facilities. So this is a statistic and then Bowels of the Devil.
A statistic. At this moment, there are more black males in prison than in college. Stomach filled with lost souls, guts made out of steel and concrete, vows of the devil. Listen close, cause I've been there before, and you don't wanna die there. They call it going out the back door. The back door. The back door. The back door. Walk the club or the host, give me the sex look. Play like a nigga like me, cause I'm a known crook. And my posse's down, we don't mess around. You fuck with us, you'll be 6 feet underground. But now they got me locked in the road, all death. The governor, that motherfucker wants my last breath. That's right, someone wants to pull a switch on me. I'll be in this fucking penitentiary. Vows of the devil. Let me tell you what that sucker eats. It's something filled with my homeboys. Guts made out of steel and concrete. Vows of the devil. Listen close, cause I've been there before. And you don't wanna die there. They call it going out the back door. The back door. The back door. The back door. Yeah!
All right, so before this goes any further, the whole concept of there are more black males in prison than in college is repeated constantly. As a very small tangent and aside, as I've been dealing with impoverished groups, social groups that have suffered from social inequities, let's just get right to the heart of it. Poor black guys, drug dealers, that sort of thing, in my professional career. One of the things that comes out when doing therapy with these folks, the tendency to put the blame on everything else in society. You know, I'm this way because I was poor. I'm this way because of the cops. I'm this way because of George Bush. You know, there's always some. They couldn't internalize their own mistakes. It was always some other thing that was keeping them down. And one of the things that they would always just throw out there is, you know, just to sort of pepper their argument with, you know, fancy anecdotes and such, was, wow, see, there was more black males in prison than in college. And I want to read an article real quick, part of an article. This is written March 16, 2013 from the BBC News magazine. And a close look at the figures for 2009 showed that there were 600,000 more black male college and university students than black male prisoners. The story, so often repeated, was not true. But had it been true before? The statistic was first published by the campaign group, the Justice Policy Institute, in 2002, using figures from 2000. Someone named in the article, Tolson, compared those figures with the latest data and noticed a suspicious jump in the number of black students attending college and universities. How did we get a 108% jump in the black male college population, he said. It didn't seem feasible for us to achieve that in only 10 years, he said. He found that a number of colleges reporting a lot of black students they had reported none or very few back in 2000. Results he wrote up in an article for The Root. The first thing that jumped out at me was that right now there are 4,700 colleges that report black students. 10 years ago, there were about 3,000. And this goes on. I could have given you more extensive research here, but the point of it is that it is a lot easier for people to sort of shift blame for their own mistakes to others, to outside entities, as it's easier than to not accept responsibility for anything you've done. But that shouldn't necessarily upend or discredit Ice-T's assertion here. While it's wrong, there are not more black males in prison than in college. There are certainly a lot of them, and the barriers to succeed in this country can certainly be harder for impoverished groups of people, more so than others. And certainly, impoverished black people have a steep hill to climb. And when you consider the drug war, which is usually targeted at minorities, black people especially, it's no wonder that you get a song like this. It's no wonder you get a song like, about, black people in prison, because that's the perception, is that, well, they go hand in hand. This is a society that makes a point to, throw as many black people into prison as possible. And And again, I don't want to say too much more about that. This isn't the Right Hook or the Whiskey Rebellion, but if you're going to deal with a song that talks about prison, it's important to actually talk about prison. Robert?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if it was a statistic true in 1992, though. That's what I'm wondering. Because I could see it being true.
Yeah,
then.
it may have.
I mean, hell, I could.
It may have been. It may have been. Yeah. Like I said, I don't think Ice-T was completely off, but the thing of it is, it had been said for years before that. In other words, when I say it's a popular trope, I'm talking about like without having looked up anything, people would say this. It had become legend. It had become, they say when the myth is more alluring than the reality, repeat the myth. So who knows when? Who knows when there were more black males in college than in prison? But it didn't matter because the point that he was trying to drive home is, oh look, the United States it can be a terrible place for black guys because we'll start shoving them into prisons by the dozens.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue. I can't argue too much about that. That's not a subject I really know too much on. And seeing as when I try to make inferences and guesses on things I don't know on, we end up with Clamato.
So why don't you tell me what you think of probably the most thrashiest song on here that doesn't repeat the same phrase over and over and over again?
Yeah, that is a problem with this album. I actually kind of did enjoy this song. It was the lyrical themes were, again, it's something you're not going to find on any thrash. I don't even think any rap metal album does anything like this. I'm pretty sure this is the only metal album that does, like, the only metal band that covers these topics because it really is a rapper. Like, and a gangster rapper at that. Well, yeah, he's still a gangster rapper. I wasn't sure if he counted because he plays a cop on TV. But, yeah. One thing I did notice when we talked about skits was that I know that's something that was brought over from the hip-hop and the rap and stuff like that. I know there were a lot of skits on early hip-hop albums. And that's not exactly something, I mean, it is somewhat prevalent in metal, but those skits are usually included in the song. Like, the skit that sets up the song, it's just going to put it in the song. Sorry. But I know in hip-hop, especially early hip-hop, this was a thing that people like to do, kind of break up the album, make it a little more, bring a little preface to the topics that they're going to be talking about.
De La Soul's 3 Feet High and Rising. De La Soul's 3 Feet High and Rising would break up their album. Like, they established at the beginning that 3 Feet High and Rising was the name of a game show, and they would break up the different songs with, like, bits and pieces of a fictional game show, which had the most awesome questions ever. One question was, how many times did the Batmobile catch a flat? How many fibers are intertwined in a shredded wheat biscuit? Which occasionally I'll ask somebody. I don't remember a whole lot of De La Soul, 3 Feet High and Rising. I mean, I remember 3 is the magic number. I remember everyone fucking knows Potholes in My Lawn. Now I'm blinking because I'm wondering if anyone knows what the fuck I'm talking about. Oh, God, I'm so old.
Yeah,
so,
that's
3
why
is the magic
old
number.
Man Radulich.
I am Old Man Radulich, and boy, am I showing my age tonight. Potholes in My Lawn, that was the big single from 3 Feet High and Rising. The actual title track, 3 Feet High and Rising, was a good song. De La Soul, they spiked and then they went into obscurity, and then there was a small resurgence years later, the more modernized sound. But to go back to the whole skits thing, they set it up at the beginning like it's a game show, and they would throughout the album they would kind of go back to it, and there were different contestants who didn't know any of the answers to any questions. Pretty amusing. Speaking of amusing, Robert's favorite part of the album apparently. Where do white women at?
Where do white women at? Yeah, I mean, I found this song to be pretty fucking hilarious.
Yeah, this is where we really start delving into the black animosity fantasy rap, fantasy metal. This is where Ice-T sort of takes us down into the real pathos of African-American angst in America, and I love it. It's so, like I said, it's so great and terrible at the same time because it's just, here, give it a listen. Give it a listen, and then you'll understand what I'm trying to say.
The problem isn't the lyrics on the records. It's the fear of the white kids liking a black artist. But the real problem is the fear of the white girl falling in love with the black man. Oh yeah, what's up out there? BC's in the house. Right about now, I want to tell you a little love story. You know what I'm saying? It's a body count love story. Check out the lyrics, you know. I'm going to tell you about what happened when we went down south last year on tour. Out on tour, yo, I've been all around the world. Went to Georgia, met this fine-ass white girl. Blonde hair, blue eyes, big tits and thighs. Kind of girl that would knock out most guys. She got wild in the backstage bathroom. Sucked my dick like a motherfucking vacuum. Said I love you, but my daddy don't play. He's the fucking Grand Wizard of the KKK. Love my KKK bitch, love when you suck me though. Love my KKK bitch, love when you fuck me though. Love my KKK bitch, love when I treat her bad. Love my KKK bitch, motherfucker, dear old dad. You know what I'm saying? So we was down south falling in love, you know. D-Rock had this Nazi girl, my man Moose Man had this skinhead. I fell in love with Timber Gore's 12-year-old nieces. It was wild, you know what I'm saying? It got even worse, you know? So one night they took her to a meeting. White sheets, white hoods, no room for seating. There were skinheads, Nazis, and crazies talking about black people pushing up daisies. They hated blacks, Jews, Puerto Ricans, Mexican, Chinese, even the Indians. We had our hoods on, we was slick. She pushed her butt up hard against my dick. Then her daddy jumped on the stage, talking about killing in a goddamn rage. I got mad, my dick got hard. Slammed it in her ass, shit, oh my God. Love my KKK bitch, love it when you fuck me though. Love my KKK bitch, I love it when you suck me though. Love my KKK bitch, she loves it when I treat her bad. Love my KKK bitch, motherfucker, dear old dad.
Yep, it's a body count love song, all right. Because what you get to there is a lot of heart and soul right there, as he proceeds to molest the white woman in the middle of a KKK Klan rally. You know, when you look at his,
so amazing.
Like, what they're tapping into there is, like, you know, historically, when white people decided it was a good idea to burn down an African American town, especially if it was successful, you know, it was the old trope of, you know, fear of the black man going after the white women, and we had to protect the white women from black men, and and a great thing to accuse a guy of was rape. You know, oh my God, if a black guy raped a white woman, that's it, burn everything, hang everybody. The Salem witch trials never really ended, folks. We just changed witches, and so
isn't that the truth? Now you can just say Arab.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a whole other thing. But so what you get is the turnaround now of sort of black people, sort of claiming, seriously Braveheart, where I don't remember what it's called, but like the king, promotes his right of something or other, where he has to sleep with the bride on her wedding day.
Oh, that
along those lines.
That was so brilliant, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
like, oh yeah, I'm the king, I get first dibs.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's kind of like that, you translate it through those eyes, thinking of black people like, you want to know a good way to stick it to the white man, get a white chick to fall in love with you. Yeah.
Stick it to her.
Exactly. Stick it to a white girl, and then what even makes it better is if you can find like the most racist white guy and get his daughter to fall in love with you. And it's such fantasy crap. It's such sticking your thumb in the eyes of white people in power, which is a hilarious thing because when this album, as we talked about, stirred up a lot of unnecessary controversy. And because of the song Cop Killer. But that led to one of the most unintentionally hilarious things to ever happen in the history of music. And that was, I got to find, Charlton Heston at a...
Oh, that, yeah.
At a Time Warner shareholders meeting, actor Charlton Heston stood and read the lyrics of the song KKK Bitch to an astonished audience and demanded the company take action. Oh, I could just picture that. She jammed it in my ass and said, "Oh my God, what the hell am I reading here?" And the whole thing with like Tipper Gore and her two nieces, you have to understand, this is shortly after the Tipper sticker became a thing in music. Robert, do you know what the Tipper sticker is?
You guys don't know what the fucking Tipper sticker is.
For those of you playing the home game who don't know, there was an attempt to put a rating system on music so that they could keep harmful music out of the hands of minors. So they wanted a system like you would have for movies. The problem is there's only 100 movies or so that maybe come out in a year, and it was easy to get a rating on all of those, as opposed to albums where it's hundreds of thousands of albums come out in a year. There's no way to rate them all.
Like a filthy 7 songs or something like that. I remember like Merciful Fate was on there, and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. This led to
Frank Zappa,
hearings. Frank Zappa testified. Dee Snider. Certain the dead Kennedys were brought into court for distributing harmful matter to minors, and it was because of their music. But the thing they actually got busted for was we've talked about it before, was the H.R. Giger painting that was inserted in the album. But the whole Tipper sticker thing was that's where the whole parental advisory explicit lyrics thing, because they couldn't do a rating system. It was pretty much impossible. They settled for a sticker that if it had dirty words on it, they got the sticker on it, and then stores could opt not to carry albums with stickers. And in 2014, you can listen to a band called Fuck. I'm not even joking about that. There's a band called Fuck out there, okay? You can stop listening to this podcast right now and go find it. There's a band called Fuck, and you can listen to it. You can listen to a band called Anal Cunt, okay? So I don't know what was accomplished here. Yes, the favorite all-star band, Hall of Fame band here on the Metal Hammer of Doom, Anal Cunt. So my point here is there was all this effort and congressional time and energy wasted on trying to control the amount of music that was out there and the kind of music that was out there, and it resulted in absolutely nothing. and thank the internet kids for that. In the meantime, at the time, there was a lot of anger and angst directed at the Gore family because of this, and therefore what a fantasy thing it would be to have sex with Tipper Gore's daughters or nieces or whoever the fuck he says on this album. You want to try to censor me? I'll fuck your kids. Ha-ha.
Oh, God. Tipper Gore, I'd love to make her just eat my dirty gym socks, because that woman is a moron. Like, I can understand
but how is she any more of a moron than Michelle Obama, who thinks she can, solve obesity? I mean, all of these women try to find a purpose in Washington and fail miserably. Nancy Reagan, solution for, drugs in America was just say no. Come on now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I'd just take hers more personally, because music, that and a lot of what they were, like, worried. At least with obesity, that's actually a real problem.
Yeah, well, that's the fact that I find Michelle Obama to be offensive, so how do you like that? All right. We're gonna move on. Unless you want to talk more about black guys fucking white chicks, we're gonna move on. How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, I think I've seen a few films that manage to live out that fantasy.
What I find really, just my last point on this, what I find really hilarious, I guess in 1992, this was, again, Charlton Heston reading the lyrics and all that. This was like, oh my God, how do you take something that's sort of hinted at in the culture, but not really talked about, and just sort of throw it out there in this most extreme fashion? In 2014, you look back at a song like KKK Bitch, and it's more comical than anything else. It's ridiculous.
That's how I look at it.
Like it's like there's no, I can't even call it social satire, because it's like okay, so black guys fuck white chicks, yeah, and good for you.
The sun will rise again.
you know.
And then she'll get up,
and
fuck again, you know, whatever.
I think the only people who have any kind of, like, legit commentary on that subject are black women comedians, who are usually, it's in the vein of, where are all the good black men? Well, they're usually fucking white women. That's what happens, see? You know, it's like, they get a little success, they go seek out the white women. Like, poor black women. They want to be loved by somebody who can keep a job. All right, moving on.
Damn.
So, this next one, I was going to combine it with the track that comes after it, but I actually want to get your opinion on this. This is just a solo called C Note, and it's named after one of the guys in the band. All right, for legal purposes, I really can't play more than that. But you've heard the whole thing. You have any thoughts on that minute and 30 seconds of solo named after Ernie C?
Well, two things. One, it was kind of a weird fit for this album. I was like, oh, okay, that's the thing. But this album does have really yeah, I was just kind of like, huh, okay. Because, you know, I was expecting some sort of skit or something. I wasn't expecting some sort of, like, you know, mellow guitar solo. But there are some great fucking guitar solos on this album. They're straight shredding, and then the drum fills are just pretty great. That's one thing I did take away from this album. Like, damn, these guys can play. I mean, not necessarily are they the best, like, you know, crafters of songs at times, and they do tend to repeat the same damn thing, so half the time, but you know, they can fucking shred when they need to. I salute that.
So another, this isn't necessarily a trope so much as it is just a part of the culture, especially where I grew up in New York. You get a lot of Jamaicans, Haitians, West Indian folks, and whether it was acknowledged, practiced, seen, accounted for, whatever, voodoo got brought up. And even to this day, I was just having a conversation with one of the inmates at the jail I work in, and I work in, like, the meth capital of fucking Florida. You know, I work in a it's supposed to be a very white county, but there are pockets of high populations of black people, and exactly. And, you know, we're not exactly, you know, swarming with islanders here, but despite the fact that, you know, we've got your traditional African-American families here, you know, born here, grew up here, may have had roots going all the way, you know, back for 100 years or so, they'll still talk about how, like, they have somewhere in their family someone practices voodoo or something along those lines. And like I said, an inmate actually blamed that on the reason why his mother was crazy. He was like, oh, you know, the reason why my mother acts this way and the reason why I'm the way that I am is because of the roots. And I'm like, well, what's the roots? And he goes, the roots is voodoo. Okay. I'm like, no, it's because your mother's borderline person. Yeah. No, it's because your mother's borderline personality disorder, but that's a whole other story. In any case, it's this next song, it's, you know, story time with Ice-T, but it's, again, it reflects depending on who you ask, a small or a large part of the African-American experience. This is this is highly satirical and silly at the same time. I don't want people to think like this is like the authentic island experience. This is one of the silliest songs I've ever heard in my life, but it's very catchy at the same time. This is Voodoo.
this old lady. She said she teach me about voodoo. She said she knew about voodoo. She said she teach me about voodoo. She said she knew about voodoo. She had an old doll. She had a long, shiny needle. She held the doll in the air. It looked kind of like me. She took the needle, stuck it in its eye. Ah! Still in the room with this crazy bitch, and she still has the doll. She said, I'll teach you about the voodoo. You wanna learn about voodoo? She said, I'll teach you about the voodoo. She said she knew about voodoo. She held the doll in her hand. She had some long, shiny scissors. She said some magic word. The doll looked more and more like me. She held the doll in the air. She took the scissors, cut off all its fingers.
Anyone else get like an image of Lenny from The Simpsons when I'm not supposed to get pudding in that eye, bitch. Dun, 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 dun,
That's a Simpsons reference I don't get, sadly.
Oh, you don't know that one?
No, it's not ringing a bell. Like I used to watch The Simpsons a lot back in the day. I don't watch it anymore because, well, the quality's gone into the shitter. But yeah.
It's an old reference. It's just, he has a glass eye, and and he like gets something jammed, and he's like, oh, I'm not supposed to get some blah blah like pudding or whatever. I'm not supposed to get pudding in that eye. It's really funny the way he says it. But that's sort of the delivery Ice-T has here with this song. Ah, my fingers, bitch. My hand. I want to know, dude, Ice-T's a pimp and a gangster. How did he not shoot this motherfucker in the head? Like she should, like, lady, I come to you seeking the knowledge of voodoo. Oh, yeah? Huzzah. Pin in your hand. Huzzah. Bullet in your dome.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe he was feeling, like, gracious. And maybe he was like, you know what, I'm going to try to turn in a new leaf. And instead of shooting him, like,
he's going to kill his mother later on in the album. No. He's going to kill his mother later on in the album. Okay? Don't hand me he was feeling gracious going to turn over. I want to know why at the end of this song he doesn't bust a cap in her ass.
I can't honestly tell you. Maybe if we ever see Ice-T, we should try to ask him, like, hey, man, why didn't you bust a cap in that guy's ass? He goes, which guy? I'm like, the guy from the first Body Count album.
The voodoo lady. Well, you can find Ice-T, as I found out. If back when I lived in Los Angeles, I went into the strip club, and I look over, and I see him chilling at a table, and he doesn't like have a whole bunch of people around him. There's like one or two, and I was with a buddy of mine, and I was like, oh my God, Ice-T. I really like Ice-T. I was a huge fan of his, especially back then. So I did what you do, and the whole reason why CM Punk quit the WWE, I walked up to him, and while he's at the strip club, and I was like, hey, big fan, been a big fan for years, just wanted to shake your hand. Thank you, man, I really appreciate it. Shook my hand, and left him alone. Didn't ask for anything, didn't ask for an autograph. I'm not into like harassing celebrities. I'm really not somebody who's into like bothering celebrities at all. And God knows I've seen a bunch in my life. But he was one of those where like I just wanted to shake the guy's hand and be like, hey, and acknowledge that, hey, I'm a huge fan. So I did that. And so stripper comes over to the table and she's like, did you just walk over and say hi to Ice-T? I'm like, yeah, I'm a huge fan of his. She's like, oh, he's such a loser. He's here all the time.
Well, I guess it's one of those things like, like you're in a band and everybody just won't shut up about the fucking lead singer and you're the bassist. You're like, he's a guy, whatever. He's like, he's not that great. I see him every day.
Right. Well, apparently, at least back then, Ice-T was just simply mad about strip clubs, which is weird when you're supposed to be a pimp and an OG. But
well, yeah,
whatever.
if you've seen his wife's ass, I'd say he's moved on up. That was a guy. There was a guy I met at a used bookstore, and we talked metal for literally 2 hours. And I'm like, yeah, I write for 4-1. He goes, oh, yeah, man, I go there all the time. I love wrestling. He goes, you need to tell them to get more pictures of Coco's ass up sometime. I'm like, oh, I'll make sure to put that memo in.
I don't think that's going to be a problem. I'm pretty sure that's in our policies and procedures at 411. Coco's ass must be a new picture posted every hour.
Or Kim Kardashian, which I'm like, that's music? Still.
Yes.
Fuddles me.
Her ass is musical. All right. So this next song is the most unintentionally hilarious song on the entire album. This is called The Winners Lose.
My friend's addicted to cocaine.
My friend's addicted to cocaine.
Cocaine.
My friend's addicted to cocaine. Smoke day and night, drive Martin Paul insane. Living his life in the dark light. Every dollar he gets goes into the fight. He wants to borrow some money from me. Do you think I'm blind? Don't know the score, can't see. You wanna get high as the sky. You're kissing your life goodbye. You're kissing your life goodbye. You think it's a game. You think it's a game that you play. But the winners lose. But the winners lose it all someday.
Ballads go, Robert Cooper. How would you rate that one?
Ooh, we got to look at like the ballad scale. Are we looking at like overall ballads or shitty hair metal album ballads? Because I put this one.
Give me both.
Okay, well, on an overall ballad scale, I'd give it about a 4 because Ice-T couldn't sing his way in, out, or around the bag. And in terms of shitty hair metal, I'd give it about a 6 because while it is not the most well-performed, it is very catchy, which is what all those shitty ballads tend to pride themselves on. So you can't tell me you don't listen to Every Rose Has Its Thorn and then end up singing the song for the next 20 hours and wanting to hang yourself. Hear that, or wear a bandana that covers your bald spot like Bret Michaels. God, I hate Poison. But yeah, this is actually interesting enough. I was looking at the the writing credits, this is the only song not written by Ice-T. Nope. It was written by Ernie C. True story. Yeah, it was. And maybe that's why it's a ballad. But it does cover an interesting topic, like, drug abuse. That's not something we often get in metal. Like, yeah, sometimes we'll get, like, little smatterings of it, but it's not straight up like, my friend's addicted to cocaine. It's really fucking sad. Now, most of the time, it's just like girls, 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 coke, coke, coke.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, a very serious topic and what could have been a very powerful song is ruined by the fact that Ice-T sounds like he raped a cat.
And what he's trying to whisper over the phone, trying to explain what happened. He's like, I swear I just had my dick out, and then the cat showed up, and things just went about, And he's just really trying to be on the down low and make sure nobody knows and nothing happened. But instead, it just kind of makes him sound like he's guilty about putting things where things shouldn't be. Going after the wrong pussy. Hi-yo.
Yeah, they really should have brought somebody in on this one. This would have worked out a lot better had they brought in, like an actual singer to do this and have maybe Ice-T do, you're losing your life, something along those lines. Trying to get him to sing like a serious ballad, and like Ice-T acknowledges he can't sing. I'm like, I can't sit there like, well, boy, he have delusions of grandeur on this one. Like, he knows he can't sing. He knows that like his strength is not singing. But that's what they call for. And this, like I said, it's not a bad song. It's just ruined by Ice-T.
It's a really good idea and a really good concept.
It.
It's one of those things that would have been so much better done by somebody who was better fit for the job.
Well, think about, have you ever heard Chris Cornell's cover of Billie Jean? Because if you haven't, you will in 2 weeks. But have you ever heard it?
Chris Cornell. No, I've not.
Chris Cornell does a haunting cover of Michael Jackson's Billie Jean, which in 2 weeks, when the Metal Hammer of Doom comes back and we do covers, I'll be playing that one for you. But imagine
we're
this
going
song
to have
by Chris Cornell.
That's going to be a very interesting
Let's
episode.
Go to a 3-hour
I have a
show,
feeling you're going to... Is it really? Oh, that's going to be so... Oh, dude, I'm shit with our musical variations and the fact that I have slowly adopted your slogan as there is no such thing as a bad cover, which is partially true. Well, actually, it came to be a problem because I took upon reviewing a Melvin's cover album last year, and at the end of it, I was like, I mean, it was good. It's a covers album. What can I say? Oh, yeah, they did a good job of not fucking something up.
These songs aren't terrible. Next.
I was like, yeah, I mean, it's pretty true to the original. Good for them. Let's talk about people
let's talk about some people who can actually sing for a moment. And you can agree or disagree, but these are some of my favorite voices. Chris Cornell on the male side. Love his voice.
Sure.
I think he's an outstanding singer. I think he sings the winners lose. It sounds 100% better. You don't change another lyric to it. And you have Chris Cornell and Ice-T sort of duetting on this, where they sing their strengths. This is a much better album. Tori Amos on the women's side. Love Tori Amos' voice. Very powerful singer for a mousy woman. Okay, well, nobody said you had any taste. But the singer from, oh God, what's her name from Concrete Blonde? The chick from Concrete Blonde.
You've
never heard of Concrete Blonde.
3 non-blondes.
No,
4 non-blondes.
Concrete Blonde. That's the cover band. No.
What's going on?
Anyways, have you ever heard Concrete Blonde?
No. That's why I was so confused.
You should.
And you're like, yeah, I probably should.
Concrete Blonde's awesome. I'm going to make you listen to some of it. Jeanette Napolitano. Jeanette Napolitano has an amazing voice. She sings The Winners Lose. It sounds awesome. Can you think of any woman or male whose voice in particular you think would handle the song well?
The other ones I'm thinking of, wouldn't quite match the stylings. Let's see. Who would do a good song about my friend being addicted to cocaine? Johnny Cash.
Okay. I like it. I like where you're going with that.
It just kind of popped in my head. I'm like, yeah, Johnny Cash is haunting really well.
But that's why I say the song is unintentionally hilarious, because instead you have this guy's voice cracking in the middle of the song. My friend's addicted.
Yes, addicted. Cocaine. Oh, it's just a really, it almost feels like a joke ballad.
Right,
just
it really does.
He can't do it right.
Yeah, it's Ice-T and the Tryhards. All right, so after this song sort of takes a weird turn there, we're back to heavy and silly, not necessarily in that order. So there goes the neighborhood. Oh, no, black people playing heavy metal, like we'd never heard that before in 1992. Like, Living Color in 1983. I mean, at this point...
Go
ahead.
Oh, okay, I was about to make a joke about my favorite all-black heavy metal band, Black Death. If you've ever seen... if you ever heard them, they're pretty awesome. But if you look at them, they're just all dressed in leather and stuff. And I'm like, this is like a stereotype, isn't it? Because they look like, this would be a black guy playing heavy metal. You just have to see them. But it's actually they're awesome, but they look very stereotypical.
Yeah, it's, again, we're back to, Ice-T sort of, pointing at, getting in the face of society and mainstream culture and oh no, is black people playing heavy metal, what you going to do about that? And this sort of perceived angst and anxiety over black people invading white people's space in music. And it's like, boy, 20 years later, that's not what happened at all. It's
shit, we still don't see many black people in metal.
Well, not only that, but in cases where it occurred, was there ever this huge backlash against black people invading white people's space in music? No, it was like, fuck, whatever. Is the music good? Sure, who cares?
Yeah, it never became like a race thing. I just think it's more of a cultural thing, is why you don't see as many black people in heavy metal. So that does lead me into the two articles I mentioned I sent to my instructor. One of them was about a band of I think they're 12 and 13-year-olds from Harlem playing fucking metal in the streets. It's like, this kid's fucking rock. And then another one was about a story from Canada where they were talking to a black woman who's a heavy metal singer. And she's like, oh yeah, she says she's been discriminated against and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay. And then as I keep watching, she's like, all these big record companies would come up to me and be like, oh yeah, we'll totally give you a big deal, but you've got to dress and look like Tina Turner the whole time, and wear those heels and have the hair. And she's like, oh no, that's not what I'm doing.
Yeah, and that's not the kind of discrimination he's talking about here.
No.
I had a bunch of friends who put together a band, And they, the record company that they were going to sign with was willing to give them a deal as long as they looked like Slipknot or they had like a Slipknot type gimmick. That's just the way it is. So, yeah, There Goes the Neighborhood is again, it's a kitschy song. But in 2014 you go back and listen to it and go like, oh boy, were you worried about the wrong thing?
There's a lot of the stuff. I felt like some of it was kind of like this song. I didn't think it was really that like dangerous. Maybe it's just because it's a retrospect sort of thing. Like, I'm like, black people in metal. I'm like, yeah, that's true. You don't really hear much of it, but I don't think it's really, they're afraid of us. Just like I was going to say that the black people don't play metal because most don't like heavy metal music. It has nothing to do with, yeah, it's just, like a lot of white people don't necessarily like, traditional rap music. Many people do. A lot of black people don't like country music. Yeah. Actually, I hate country music. A lot of white people don't like country music. God, it's just, obviously not every musical genre is going to find a large audience, here and there. But again, he's speaking to sort of the anxiety of white people, of black people sort of taking back the culture we stole from them in the first place. And it never went down like that. So the song ends up being ridiculous, especially in retrospect. I mean, back then it was, there was something of, there was some angst to it. It was like, ooh, black people, we're in your face now. We're playing your music. What are you going to do about that? And the collective reaction was, get up and dance? I don't know. What am I supposed to do? 1992. This isn't not 1952. All right, so this next song makes me uncomfortable. I was going to play it. But this is not my thing right here. Oh, my God. This song is ridiculous. We have another skit here. Worst impression of Oprah ever.
On Oprah Today, we discuss male promiscuity. Why men are constantly in a search for sex and new sexual partners.
Evil Dick! Evil Dick! Evil Dick! Evil Dick! Evil Dick! Evil Dick, like warm, wet places. Evil Dick, don't care about faces. Evil Dick, like young, tiny, small faces. Evil Dick, these little gooey telltale traces. Evil Dick. Evil Dick. Evil Dick. Evil Dick. Evil Dick. Late at night, Evil Dick, he comes to me, he says, don't sleep alone, don't sleep alone. Late at night, Evil Dick, he wakes me up, he says, don't sleep alone, don't sleep alone, don't sleep alone, don't sleep alone, don't sleep alone. Evil Dick. Evil Dick. Evil Dick. Evil Dick. I had this girl, she said she loved me. Thought there was no one ever above me. She wanted to marry and have my child. But Evil Dick, he had to get buck wild. Took me out one night, out with the freaks. If ever there was pussy, Evil Dick would seek. My girl caught me skeezing. She said I wasn't shit. I said it wasn't me, baby. It was that motherfucker Evil Dick. Late at night, Evil Dick, he comes to me. He says, don't sleep alone, don't sleep alone. Late at night, Evil Dick, he wakes me up. He says, don't sleep alone, don't sleep alone, don't sleep alone, don't sleep alone, don't sleep alone. Evil Dick. Evil Dick.
Evil Dick has his way, it sounds a little like this.
Yeah, that's all we needed to hear. Oh, boy. That's enough of that.
This song's about Dick Cheney, right?
Ugh.
Evil. This was a song where I'm like, oh, okay, that's this is a thing. Okay, I can't say I've ever heard a song blaming, kind of like the devil made me do it. More like
well, I was
going to
say I would never in a million years cheat on my wife. It's not who I am. It's not what I would do. But I think that if I ever did, I'm blaming it on Evil Dick. I'm totally saying that, look, it's not my fault. My Evil Dick made me do it. It said don't sleep alone, and I couldn't take the voices in my dick, so I had to do what I had to do. It's a medical condition.
Oh, yeah.
Really.
Yeah, it was just evil. Dick, it's its fault. Don't blame me. I mean, you can, but really you're just doing a disservice to me, and you're ignoring the fact that Evil Dick does exist.
So this very much like incorporates a lot of elements from hip hop and rap music. It's the old joke that white people make about rap music. It's like, oh, all these guys ever think about is bitches, honey, bitches, hoes, money, and drugs or whatever, hoes, money, and cars, and that's really all this song is. It's like, oh, look. Let's write a song that completely absolves me from any responsibility for cheating on my significant other. It's my possessed penis. It's my possessed penis' fault. Yes. Don't you understand? I have a medical condition. I mean, is it catchy? Sure. I was singing it to my wife earlier. Like the kids playing with their toys or whatever, and she knew I was doing this podcast tonight and that I was excited for it. So I just kind of got nose to nose with her. I'm just like, da-na-na-na, evil, da-na-na-na, dick. And she's like, get away from me, creepy.
Oh, God. This song should have been in the soundtrack to Boogie Nights. What the fuck, Jesse?
Yeah, I don't know.
Why does Jerry Seinfeld look like a giant dick?
I guess Jerry Seinfeld is the actual Evil Dick. That's who's singing. That's who's singing to Ice-T. Jerry Seinfeld is telling Ice-T not to sleep alone.
Well, yeah, because Kramer's gonna come and scream nasty things, and then everybody's gonna show up at Jerry's door because they thought that's where Kramer lives.
Okay, I'm gonna move on here in the interest of time and play the Body Count anthem. this song suffers from a lack of production in a sense of, like, editing. The purpose of, body counts in the house is awesome. And I'll tell you right now, any professional wrestler in the indie scene, in fact, Casual Heroes, Jesse Starcher, anyone out there who interacts on an ongoing basis with indie wrestlers, tell them, anyone that comes out to Body Counts in the House will have instant fans. That's a hype song right there. It is perfect entrance music. Okay, then the self-titled song Body Count, that's good too. Really, did we need Body Count's anthem? This is where one of those things where it just becomes gratuitous. Like, all right, if we had two where you said your name repeatedly, why do we need a third one that does absolutely nothing?
When I was looking through the track listing, I'm like, Body Count anthem. Fuck, we've already had Body Counts in the House and Body Count. Like, what are we gonna do? Is this like a mishmash of what we had? It's just
it's a little overindulgent. I want to go ahead and just take a brief station authentication. The Metal Hammer of Doom podcast retrospective look at the self-titled Body Count album will continue for probably the next 10-20 minutes or so, where we will have a discussion about the song Top Killer. Actually, the next one is Mama's Gotta Die Tonight, but we are fast approaching the end of live time. So we're going to move into the recorded part of our podcast momentarily, where we'll discuss the last two songs, give our summary thoughts, plugs, and then we're going to be done for the night. So if you want to come back and hear our thoughts on that, give us about a half an hour, 45 minutes. It'll be up in the archive section, and I'll be waiting for you there. So if you've listened to us live this long, we greatly appreciate your patronage. Hope you've enjoyed the podcast so far, and that you'll go ahead and download the whole thing and listen to the end a little bit later on. Alrighty. Any last words there on the totally unnecessary Body Count anthem?
That was totally unnecessary.
So I have to read this from Jesse. They say it over and over and over, and then they abbreviate to mix it up a little. Yeah, at that point they needed like a producer to. This is what happens when you produce your own album: is you give in to self-indulgence, and there's nobody there to go like, "This is unnecessary, you idiots." Just take this off the album, okay? You don't need 3 songs telling people who you are. But that's an ongoing thing in rap music too. How many times in a rap song will someone talk about themselves in the third person? They have to constantly remind people who they are. It's like putting your name on your underwear. It's like, all right, we get it. We know who the fuck people are in this song. So, real quickly, this next one, there are 2 songs that totally remind me of my very, very angry early teens, late tweens, where I'm not going to go into a big, long story here because I know people hate that. But to suffice it to say that my mom and I did not get along for a very, very long time. And for reasons I'm not going to discuss now, I really hated my mom for the longest time. I've since forgiven her, and I've gotten over a lot of this stuff. But back then, 13, 14, 15, around when I would have been listening to this album, this one and Used to Love Her, which I realize is not about anyone's mother. It's about, killing your girlfriend and burying her in the backyard. But I used to listen to this song and Used to Love Her and think about my mom because she would make me so angry. I'm like, yeah, I fucking want to put you in the backyard. And I don't mind admitting it to this day. I was an angry teenager. There's a reason for I was an angry teenager, which I don't feel like talking about right now. But suffice it to say, I carried a lot of that with me, and it pushed me in some of the directions that I've already talked about on this and other podcasts. Why did I get into metal? Why was I angry? Well, I had a lot of problems at home. Some more so than others. I'm not certainly going to compare my situation to those who suffered real poverty. And I was lucky enough to have two of my natural parents. So, had it better than some, not as good as others. But pain is pain and anger is anger. And I suffered from both to whatever extent you want to measure it. So as much as my mother was not as bad as the portrayal of Ice-T's mother in this song, I used to listen to it fondly and think, you know what? This makes me feel a little bit better about my situation. So this is Mama's Gotta Die Tonight.
No. Mama! All my life I loved this girl so much. All my life I loved her simple touch. She cared for me and put me on this earth. Oh, the pain of just a simple birth. But now I find that she has left me dumb and blind, poison twisted and destroyed my mind. She taught me things that simply were not true. She taught me hate for race, that's why I hate you. There's only one way I can make it right. Mama's gotta die tonight. There's only one way I can make it right. Mama's gotta die tonight. Mama. I always loved my mama. I always loved my mama. I love the way she holds me. I love the way she talks to me. She used to teach me a lot of things. She taught me good things. She taught me bad things. Don't trust white people. Don't trust white people. Don't trust white people. They're no good. They're no good. They're no good. They're no good. They're just gonna rip you off. They're just gonna rip you off. Don't trust them. Don't trust them. I said, why, Mama? She said, I told you don't trust them. They're no good. I said, Mama, I thought we were all the same, Mama. Why, Mama? She said, don't ask me any questions. Don't you challenge your mother, Mama. So one day, I found I fell in love, and I brought my girlfriend home, and I introduced her to my mother, and she smacked me. It was a white girl, and I said, why, Mama? Why, Mama? What did I do wrong, you know? I found out my mother was an evil woman. She hated Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, Jamaicans, Indians, Orientals. Mama was no good. I learned to hate my mother. So I got some lighter fluid from the corner store, and I put it around her bed, and I set her on fire. Burn, Mama! Burn, Mama! Burn, Mama! Burn, bitch!
What's sad is that this song will progressively get more and more absurd as this goes on. Like, he doesn't just set her on fire. He's going to chop her up into little pieces, and then he's going to get really silly and take her on tour for some odd reason.
Why wouldn't you chop her up and then burn her?
No, he burned her first.
Well, yeah, but it'd be much easier to chop her up than burn her.
You think so?
Well, I mean,
if I was trying to kill somebody, I would think that, you know, burning them alive would cause them, especially if I'm doing this out of anger the way he is, I would assume you would want to burn them first, cause them a significant amount of pain, and then once the body is, charred, then you chop it up because you got to dispose of it.
Oh, that's true. See, I was thinking, burned to, a fucking crisp. Yeah, because I was just thinking of, wouldn't it be easier to chop something that's a little meatier? Don't you love how that's what we're thinking about, rather than, anything else? I just go straight to, why don't you chop her up first? God.
Was this really the best way to commit this particular crime?
Yeah, I mean, shouldn't you just chop her and then burn her? Well, I mean, at least you didn't take her on tour, burn her, take her on tour, and then chop her up. At least you got the last part right.
What is this, Weekend at Bernie's? Why would he do that?
Bernie's?
I think that's a good transition to talk about Cop Killer now. All right. So, again, I do not advocate the shooting of police officers, even corrupt ones. But you have to sort of take Ice-T's perspective into this. Anybody in any kind of position of power, there's the chance they're going to abuse that power. Whether it's your supervisor at work, law enforcement official, teachers. I mean, the story du jour in today's news world are teachers who sleep with their students. Well, that's an abuse of power right there. There's an example of it. Politicians, parents. I mean, when you talk about child abuse, you have parents who abuse their authority and their position of power with their children and kick the crap out of them or molest them or whatever. So it's not entirely unheard of or out of the ordinary for Ice-T to sort of draw in on a particular group of people who abuse their power and take advantage of impoverished people, and that would be the police department. The LAPD, from what I understand, historically has had horrible race relations. Now, some conservatives may come on and say, "Well, white no one told black people to fucking riot, every other decade and burn down their homes or whatever. And no one's telling them to commit all these crimes that that apparently get the LAPD all hot and bothered in the first place." Well, that's not the podcast to debate this sort of thing, but the perspective essentially is that in places like South Central Los Angeles, in very inner city communities, you have police that are trying to be vigilant, and some go over the line, and those are the stories you hear about. So does every cop beat a guy in the street? No. Do some cops? Yes. It's still happening today. You go on Facebook, go out, look at Opposing Views or Reason Magazine or any one of these news. If you follow me on Facebook, you'll see it. Every day there's a new story where a cop fucks up and goes over the line. We had a situation here in Hillsborough County, actually, where a deputy threw somebody out of a wheelchair, and that deputy lost their job. So it's not like this stuff doesn't get dealt with either. But in some cases, it's covered up. In some cases, it's not dealt with. There's a phrase, institutional racism, and it does exist to one degree or another. So what is Cop Killer supposed to be? Cop Killer is a fantasy song. It's trying to reset the scales of justice. When you have people who are disadvantaged and are, getting the ass end of the power structure, they fantasize about what it would be like to have the upper hand. In this case, violently killing abusive police officers. And if you understand this sort of in the context of the Rodney King controversy, right, that's what really set this all off, because no one gave a fuck about Cop Killer before this. It was just a stupid song on an album that, was popular in some circles of music, but was not widely popular. And it only became so when it was used as a red herring to distract people from the Rodney King verdict. And what was the Rodney King verdict? Basically, this fucking meth head gets pulled over, right? And he's just crying. Have you ever dealt with anyone on meth? The cops were right for beating the shit out of him. Because people on meth, they get what's known as like meth strength. It's like they're like superpowers.
Yeah, superpowers. They get so strong they can push over a drink machine on somebody or safe. So this guy, he's speeding, he's driving recklessly, he's fucked up beyond all belief. They pull this guy out of the car. They're trying to get him to calm down. He's whacked out. I've had to deal with this in the jail. We have brought people in, into booking. They're fucked up on meth and God only knows what else, and they're like out of control. A lot of times we have to like put them on quote unquote suicide watch, not because they're suicidal, but because they're literally like we don't take everything away from them and keep them in an isolated area. They're gonna hurt somebody. So imagine you're the cops. It's late at night. You just pulled this guy out of the car.
He won't stay down. No matter how many times they hit this guy, he won't stay down. And I'm telling you right now, law enforcement are trained to use as much force as required to subdue somebody, which might sound excessive, except for the fact that they're trying to protect themselves in a dangerous situation. So they beat the fuck out of this guy, right? Because he won't stay down, no matter how many times they hit him. And this is why they got off. They were justified in their response to what he was doing, but in the greater context of what was going on in South Central Los Angeles, it looked like another situation where white cops beat on black guys for no reason. This wasn't one of those times, but it looked like it to people who were looking for an excuse to explode. When the cops were, and rightly so, found not guilty, there was the LA riots, and this whole question of what do you do with the situation between the African American community and law enforcement? How do you mend these fences? And years later, Barack Obama will have a beer with it's like the Chicago PD or some horse shit. But back then they were trying to deal with a real subject, and instead of dealing with it, they picked a red herring, and they couldn't have found a better one in a stupid song called "Cop Killer," which is again literally a fantasy about shooting abusive cops. So here it is. I mean, it sort of takes the oomph out of it when I put it that way, but this is the song that got America fucking all hot and bothered.
This next record is dedicated to some personal friends of mine, the LAPD. For every cop that has ever taken advantage of somebody, beat them down or hurt them because they got long hair, listened to the wrong kind of music, wrong color, whatever they thought was the reason to do it. For every one of those fucking police, I'd like to take a pig out here in this parking lot and shoot them in their motherfucking face.
This idea that police are a protected class, oh my God, you wrote a song called "Cop Killer." You can't talk about killing cops. Why? First of all, there's nothing subtle about this song. He specifically says to fuck police brutality. He's talking about cops who are abusive, and he says, "I'm going to kill them tonight. I'm going to get even." Okay, well, I'm not advocating killing cops, and two wrongs don't make a right. But why can't you write if someone can write a book about killing George Bush, true fucking story, someone wrote a book that liberals jerked off to about killing the president. If you can do that, why can't you write a song about Cop Killer without the country fucking having a stroke about it? This was the most juked up, retarded controversy I've ever seen, to the point where, and God bless Warner Brothers, because I have savaged them for how they've treated their DC property, DC Comics. They can't fucking make a decent movie. But in this particular instance, they stood by Ice-T. They were like, nope, we're not pulling the song. Ice-T eventually pulled it off of there because he was like, yeah, instead of actually dealing with the problems with correctional officers and the communities that they police and trying to do something about overzealous police who take advantage of their position of power, we're just going to focus on the fucking guy writing a stupid song. So you know what? I'll take the song off the record, and maybe then we can get back to solving problems. It makes me angry that we're such infants in this country that that instead of tackling problems, we look for the nearest red herring to distract ourselves from actually solving psychosocial issues in our culture. Rant over. Robert, your thoughts on Cop Killer?
Well, I mean, you do bring up a good point. I get why can't you talk about killing cops? Because, that is, I guess it's just one of those sacred cows that a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, a lot of modern society assumes that, the cops are always the good guys. And I guess assuming singing songs about killing cops is like singing songs about wanting dead children. I don't know. But, I mean, it is a good point. It is kind of a, what?
Like, wow, that's your comparison, huh?
Well, I was going with dead soldiers, but yeah. Well, that's not fucking dead children. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Lord, we're getting into some real, creepy shit on that one. But, yeah, it is kind of a shame that, we're getting in some stuff that's a little darker, and even I like to delve in. And I make fucking Nazis and Hitler. I make Anne Frank jokes.
Next on the Metal Hammer of Doom, necrophiliac child abuse, and you.
So we're going through Cannibal Corpse's discography.
All right, back to Cop Killer.
Yeah. So Cop Killer. It is kind of a shame that this song made everybody get so damn antsy in their pantsy about things. Like, yeah, I could see how this could be a problem and all, but I mean, if you look at where the guy's coming from, it's probably not all that wrong. I'm sure he's had many a run-in with cops, and most of them were probably not on the best terms. So, fantasizing about killing a cop would be something that, you'd probably think about. Now, as we did say at the beginning, I do not condone killing of police. I tend to like the police, even though every time I'm driving near the police, I get incredibly nervous because I always feel like they're going to pull me, which is kind of what I assume Ice-T feels like every time he sees a cop on the road. He's like, shit, I'm black, they're going to pull me.
But, years later, what's-his-face? Well, hang on, years later, what's-his-face had 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. And he talked about, being pulled over by the cops and harassed and everything else. And he was like, why are they pulling you over? Because I'm young and I'm black and this and that and the other thing. That's one of the few tropes on this album that I think still remains relevant. Feeling, black people having this feeling of being harassed for no good reason. Racial
profiling is still a thing. I mean, a lot of people have said, if you're walking in the street and this big black guy walks by, and big young black man walks by, do you get more nervous than if there was a white guy? And I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, I guess I would, and that's a bad thing about society, but honestly, yeah. I mean, shit, I get nervous when anybody big walks by. I'm like, shit, they're going to mug me, and then I'm going to be dying in the street. And it's going to be like that scene from Chappelle's show where they had the Mad Real World. You remember? And like the one guy got, right. And the guy's dad got shanked, and he's like, "Well, stop!" He's like, "What did I do?" I'm like, "See, that's gonna be me one day. I'm gonna get shanked because I looked at somebody. Somebody said, stop looking at me like that,' and I didn't know what they were talking about, so I kept looking at him like that, and then I got shanked. So there we go."
So the song itself, though, I mean, it's fairly simple. Like I said, if Rodney King doesn't happen, no one gives a shit about Cop Killer. It's not that good of a song.
Oh, yeah, I think it's okay. It's kind of simple. It does have a similar problem that some of the other songs here have, which is just repetition. I want to fucking kill this cat. Fucking cat. God.
You're gonna. Can we conclude the podcast here? Instead of you arguing with your cat.
If you can hear in the background, my doorknob is just jiggling because the cat's like, "Let me in, bitch." So I got the squirt gun that's sitting here in my room, and I started trying to squirt him, but the thing's not squirting, so I just straight up fucking pistol whip him with it. I just bash him in the ass with him, you asshole.
Cat killer, better you than me.
Cat
Cat killer.
Yeah. You know, I should rewrite that song, call it Cat Killer, and play at a Chinese restaurant. Perfect.
All right. Anything else? I've talked a lot on this. You know, I was very excited to do this album. I had a lot to say about it, but I've kind of shot my load. Evil Dick is going to sleep.
Evil Dick has to work in the morning.
Evil Dick would like to go to bed now, so I'm gonna throw it to you, Robert. You had an opportunity to listen to it, you know, hear me talk about it. Any final thoughts on Body Count's illustrious self-titled Body Count album?
This is definitely, it's very unique in the metal genre, as I said before, because it talks about a lot of topics and subjects that haven't really been covered before or since. It was taking a gangster rap's perspective, and somebody who grew up in that era and that socio-economic place, you know, pretty much somebody who grew up where you would find gangster rap and brought it to metal. And it's something very unique, because when you look at, like, other rap metal bands, like, sure, like, you got Stug Mojo is pretty awesome, but otherwise it's a bunch of angry white boys. That's really what they always boil down to. This album here really...
What are you so mad about? What are you so angry about?
Well, what are you so angry about? Fred Durst is like, I did it all for the nookie. God, I fucking hate Fred Durst. The only good thing about Fred Durst is that he was in a wrestling game and we could all kick his ass. Right.
I'm gonna make you do a Limp Bizkit retrospective when I come back.
If you make me do Limp Bizkit, I will. Well, then again, I will torture you with something you hate. Then you're just not gonna listen to it. You're like, yeah, I didn't listen to it. I'm like, damn it, Mark.
So, Mark, what'd you think of the new Dream Theater? I didn't listen to it. I don't care.
How'd you?
Oh.
Dream Theater was actually pretty good. Not a huge fan, but they were pretty good. But yeah, this album here is very unique. There's a good chunk of it that in 2014 almost comes off as very, what's the word, satirical, just because I guess it's kind of absurd that this is like an issue now when listening to this album.
I think I said it to you off air. I'll say it now. It's very it's like unself-aware satire. Like, it doesn't know that it, you know, it's taking itself seriously, and it completely sounds ridiculous at times.
Yeah, it doesn't quite realize that. Yeah, well, these are very important and serious issues. You're a fucking rap group playing as a metal band. It's not exactly going to come off quite as seriously.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's unique, and this is actually a pretty solid album. It was a lot better than I thought it would be. I thought we were going to get like 2 songs that were really awesome, and then otherwise it's just going to be fluff. But yeah, the skits worked. They did Oprah impersonations were awful. The Grand Wizard's daughter got fucked pretty hard. It was pretty solid. I learned about the evils of Evil Dick, and yeah. And I found out the Body Count was in the house not once, not twice, but thrice.
Yeah.
There we go.
Body Count is always in the house.
Unless
all right.
And you know, when they do, there goes the neighborhood.
Yes. And might I also remind you that Mama's got to die tonight. All right. That's as good as place to end this podcast.
As long as he gets it right. As long as he gets it right.
Mama's gotta die tonight. All right. So that's it. That is our body count review. I like when we go into the Wayback Machine and look at some of these old albums, especially if we have a lot to say about them. As I said to you off air, the reason why we didn't do like a full retrospective is literally the next 3 albums are more of the same, but it's like, you know, it's the same sort of unaware, kitschy ridiculousness, but it didn't get any better than this album. This was sort of the high point of the band's career. So, you know, I mean, I like the other albums, but not enough to want to do an entire podcast. And I wanted to play every song on this record because they all spoke to me in a way. You know, that's something to say about every one of them.
Yeah.
So we gave it the proper time that I think it deserves.
It wouldn't have been as fun because we would have covered the first one in depth, and then the next 3 would have been like, I mean, it was okay. It was an album.
Yeah, it was more of the same. All right, so in 2 weeks, it was meant to be our last show, but I'm going to slide one extra one in there. We're going to do, in 2 weeks, we're going to do our favorite covers. I'm going to book the show for 2 hours, and we'll probably end up going over that. And we're just going to load up the show with our favorite covers. No limitations, just whatever covers you want to play. It doesn't even have to be metal if you don't want it to be. Just whatever, you know, you just want to talk about and play. It's going to be me and Robert for 2 hours plus just kicking the can around, talking about music, talking about songs we like. No central topic, nothing like that. Just literally 2 guys who love music, sharing covers with one another, hanging out. That's what's going to happen in 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks after that is April 1st. It's going to be the very last show that I do on the Radulich Broadcasting Network as I proceed to go into the Jonas Exodus. That show will be a review of the album that will be debuting that day, which is the Austrian Death Machine Triple Brutal. Hopefully we'll actually be able to play tracks on it, because I'm thinking about this now, and I'm like, oh, shit. I hope between the 2 of us we can actually find the music to upload onto the soundboard. Ooh, if not, we may have to not do that show. Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll just do another classic album.
There we go. We'll do Double Brutal instead, or we'll do the original one.
Total Brutal.
There we go. We'll do something Austrian Death Machine related. If it's the new album, great. If not, then we'll figure something else out. But either way, that's the game plan for that. Robert, go ahead and do your plugs, and I'll finish up with mine.
Oh boy, I think we have enough time in the show left for me to do plugs. Let's see. First off, there is.
You have 5
pretty
minutes.
Much
you hang on. You have 5 minutes, or I'm cutting you off and going to bed.
Oh Jesus! I was about to say I'm the man who manages to put shows in overtime. So I guess with no further ado, the Radulich Broadcasting Network is pretty much the home for any fucking podcast you would ever want to hear on any topic you would want to hear. I call myself pretty much the niche artist of the Radulich Broadcasting Network, seeing as most of the podcasts that I do on here are very niche topics that have angry white boy fan bases. And, well, first off, there is, of course, this podcast, which is awesome. And then there's From the Cheap Seats, which is myself and Jason Teasley, as we talk sports, but mostly football because that's the only sport we care about, but sports. It's pretty good. Last week we had Jason's friend Dan, who is a fucking fantasy football guru. He is amazing. He talked for an hour and a half about the upcoming running backs in the NFL draft. Yeah. I mean, he sat there talking, and Jason's sitting back, and I'm on the computer trying to find statistics because I don't follow college football. Fun times. And this week, we'll probably be talking about the NFL free agency, so it's going to be pretty good. It's going to be pretty fun. And on Friday, since it's Robert Winfrey's Everyone Loves a Bad Guy, is doing Spider-Man villains, which is awesome. I already called dibs, but unfortunately I was beat to the punch, so it's going to be a 4-person podcast, for the love of God help us. It's going to be Robert Winfrey, Benjamin Colon, who is the title card artist for the Long Road to Ruin, and myself and Jason Teasley. So pretty much as we have deemed it, the cheap seats are invading, and we're going to be talking about Spider-Man. And it's going to be great because I love Spider-Man, and I can talk all day about Spider-Man villains. So yeah, that's a thing. Also, check out the Sentai Rider podcast. We've been kind of down for the past 2+ weeks because, snowstorms and scheduling and midterms and sleep deprivation. But we'll totally be back this week, hopefully, on Saturday. If all else fails. If not, we'll hopefully be back on Monday. We've got, like, fucking 6 podcasts we need to do. So, yeah, so many podcasts. Damn it, that's the only bad thing about doing weekly shows is that if you fall behind, you're going to be in a lot of deep doo-doo. There's also the cooperative multiplayer podcast, which is on the which page is it? The Wrestling to the Max page on Spreaker.com. It is myself, Daniel Anderson, and Sean Garmer, and hopefully our host Stephen Randall will be back. And if he's back, it's going to be on the TWNE After Dark page on Spreaker.com. But if Randall comes back, it's going to be great because we're going to be talking about video games again, like last week where we talked about video games and the last 30 minutes was masturbation jokes again. Because the week before that, it was an hour of masturbation jokes. I'm not kidding. Like, we just went off. We went on the silly wagon, and if it wasn't masturbation jokes, it was dick jokes. It was bad puns. It was hilarious because I went and listened to it again, and I just couldn't stop laughing. I mean, it was absolutely hilarious, filthy but hilarious. But then again, you're coming to the man. You're talking to the man who, rates things in titties and makes very racist remarks with Kamado. So, yeah, there's nothing much more you can expect. And finally, column-wise, if I ever write the damn thing, the Hammer of Doom News Report will hopefully be out sometime this week. Actually, I do know what my main topic's going to be. It's going to be all about Kiss and the bullshit with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And even though this is literally 2 weeks old, it's still relevant about, Peter Criss and Ace Frehley aren't going to be playing with them, so they said, fuck it, we're not going to play at all. Huge fucking brouhaha. It's a bunch of grown-ass men being bitches, but at least it's good news. So make sure you, look out for that on 411media.com and the Music Zone. So pretty sure that's all for my plugs. I think I have been deemed the hardest working man on the internet by Jason Teasley, and sometimes I like to think that's true.
All right. Last week Tuesday, Pat Mullen was on the Long Road to Ruin. We looked at the Missing in Action trilogy. That was a lot of fun. We had a good time with that. He's going to be back. We've got a couple of series lined up for him to do when I come back from the Jonas Exodus. So stay tuned for that. Go ahead and give the Missing in Action podcast a listen. We had a good time talking about that, Rambo, Vietnam, all that stuff there. A week from tonight, Sean Comer is back just in time to see me take off, and we won't be alone. Gavin Napier, he won the bet, so he gets to come on to the Long Road to Ruin and wish me farewell as I go on the Jonas Exodus. And we're going to be talking about the original Evil Dead trilogy, so that'll be fun. I just saw the first two for the first time in my life this past weekend, and they're interesting movies to say the least. So, Long Road to Ruin, the return of Sean Comer, Gavin Napier will be coming back on the show after having joined us for Mission Impossible 3 and 4, Evil Dead trilogy, and that's a week from tonight. In addition to that, this Saturday night, I will be covering for 411 UFC 171, Johnny Hendricks versus Robbie Lawler, and that's going to start, I believe, at 6 o'clock on Fight Pass. Thursday night, we'll be recording the Casual Heroes WrestleCast. We may or may not be doing a live pre-show. Haven't figured that out yet. Last week, Gavin and I did a live show just focusing on CM Punk. Go ahead and give that a listen. So far, that's gotten high praise. Last week, I was on the Everyone Loves a Bad Guy podcast, and we were talking about the Joker. And this past Friday night, Pat was on talking about Dr. Doom. And apparently people were really into that podcast. It's doing quite well, so I'm proud of those guys for putting out a quality product there. I'm glad people are enjoying it. Aside from that, that's about it for now. Go ahead, check out Pat Mullen's championship rounds on the Casual Heroes. Again, let's check out Jason Teasley and Robert Cooper on Thursday nights as they do the cheap seats. Check out the Casual Heroes WrestleCast. And I think that is it. So in 2 weeks, come back here again for the Metal. Oh, and the 401 Ground and Pound radio show is live every Sunday night at 9 o'clock. Oof, completely forgot about that. You know what it was? I missed it last week because I was in New York. But I'll be back on it this week to review UFC 171 and preview Shogun Rua versus Dan Henderson 2, which I don't think will be as good as the first one was. But that's the whole podcast.
I mean, Jesus, Dan Henderson's like 10 feet in the grave, and Shogun can't walk.
And they can't have the TRT anymore. That's how it goes.
Well,
right,
hey, Henderson got his TRT, so he'll be good just for this fight.
Just for this fight. Yeah, maybe it won't be so bad then. All right, for Mr. Robert Cooper, the hardest working man on the internet, my name is Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.